today we have our honored guest, Susan Alexander, and she's the co-author of The Ancestral Diet Revolution. And the reason I reached out to her is because I saw a clip of I think it was some guy was talking to um, a tribesman about the diet of a tribe. I don't know exactly what tribe was it, but they said all they did was drinking the milk, raw milk from the goat or the cow. So I was very surprised. But then underneath the comment, I saw your comment, and your comment was very detailed because you studied the Maasai, you live with them, and I was very grateful because your answer was very detailed and it's very long, and I read everything, and it really intrigued me because I never been into Africa. And however, our work is to trying to understand what makes natural athlete, right? So previous to let's say athlete going to Division 1 or any weightlifting program, there's always natural development. So that is the part we are really interested in because a lot of athletes prior to lifting weights, they are already exhibiting a lot of the athletic characteristics which cannot be reproduced in the gym setting. So our goal is to educate, of course, and also help the public understand, okay, there is another portion of the athletic development that could occur in the nature underneath our awareness, but we want to bring that up to the people.
Absolutely. And thank
Perfect.
you. And thanks for providing me this opportunity to share the information I have. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. So first, can you tell me a little bit about your background? Like what made you particularly interested in going to Africa and study there?
Oh, this goes back to a long time ago, maybe back in the 1960s, in the early 19, like 63, 64. And my grandmother, um, well, first of all, we're part Native American, which is the Algonquin sector, and we're from up near the Canadian region. And so she's always just been, that was her mother. And so she's very much tribal, but her dream was to always go as an educator and go and live with tribes in Africa. So she did, and she lived for many years with them. And then when she come home, I would sit at her feet, and I was very sickly. We didn't know I had celiac disease, and my father, he died before we could figure it out, but I'm pretty sure that's what he had as well, because I
Mm.
inherited it. And I would ask her so many questions about the tribes, and she would show these slides, and they were so beautiful, just so pristine. And I would ask about the food because I knew I felt so sick every time I ate.
Mm.
And she would describe what they were eating. And from that point on, and my father was an animal rehabilitationist, and he had his doctorate from Columbia University. And so we raised wild animals. And so basically a lot of my siblings were wild animals. And so I studied them all the time, watching them and learning and how they would catch their animals and they would eat them, and or they would eat plants, and they were eating their species specific diet and living as their species would live. But I said to my father, finally about 10 years old, I looked at my father and I said, Dad, I think I know why we're so sick. And he said, why? And I said, it's the food. I said, I have no idea. I'm sitting here looking at Captain Crunch every morning, my cereal and the Tang that we're drinking. And I can't make heads or tails out of what the ingredients are. There's nothing real in this. And I said,
Mm.
but yeah, our animals are eating from the land. They're eating what God placed on the earth. I said, the tribes that grandma lived with, they're eating off from the earth. And I said, but we aren't. And he's like, so it's good hypothesis. And so from that point on, every time I went to the doctors, they kept saying, this is just who you are. This is, you're going to have to suffer. I said, I don't believe God doesn't make mistakes. And
Hmm.
so from that point on, I have been researching. And then I went on, became an educator. And then I went on and started working on my doctorate in health and nutrition. And one thing led to another. And so finally, I met Dr. Chris Kenobi, and we worked together and we created our book, and we researched, and finally last year, in February, it's almost a year now, I finally said, I'm just going to go by myself, and I'm going to go and live with 7 different tribes in Africa, and 2 of them were the Maasai. And now, so now I can just share anything you'd like to ask me.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, we in the athletic world, the Maasai is known for their ability to jump effortlessly and the high jump that they do. What is the culture background of that? And can you tell us more about that type of activity?
Yeah, well, it's called the Adumu, and it's their jumping dance, and it's very competitive.
Mm,
And of course, when you think of it, it's the warriors or the Murans, and I sometimes of course if you go on my channels and stuff, you'll see that I have live Instagram chats because whenever I stay and live with the tribes, I do live Instagram chats so that my followers can ask questions and converse with the tribes, and you can see them jumping. They are just it's very competitive, and it's also a way that they also attract they can attract their mates,
mm,
and it's beautiful, and they're just pristine, and they're like, and of course they start from childhood. This is who they are. This part of their culture, and it's their athletic skill, and it's very, and they're very, very masculine. And when they're in this warrior state, which is between the ages of 15 and 30,
hmm
they only focus on being a warrior. There can be no religion. They are religious people. They are very religious, but they in that period you cannot, because they feel that makes them weak, and so they cannot. They are, when I was around them, and the fact that they even allowed me to be around them was, a lot of them didn't want anything to do with me, but some of them were just so, I got pictures of them, they were just coming over, and they were just adorable, and they would kind of smile even though they weren't supposed to. And they were just it's remarkable. But I do believe it's continuously every day they're working on being so pristine. They from the moment you're born till your till your children have gone on and left you, you are not to smoke, you are not to drink, you are just to maintain this beautiful temple that you have. And of all the tribes I've lived with, and when Dr. Kenobi and I went to the Pacific Islands, and we lived with 7 tribes there last October, November, no one comes close to the Maasai. I mean, I'm
mm.
telling you, I was just in awe. And they kept calling me the white Maasai because I'm very much built like they are, except I have a lot more muscle because they don't have muscle, but the strength that they have is extraordinary.
You did the physical contact with them, like,
Yeah, yes, they were all
and
touching me.
you felt their strength.
Yes, oh, they were just it's overwhelming. And even the women, this will give you an example how strong they are. So, because I totally became a Maasai. Whenever I live with them, I don't stay in a hotel like a lot of people do. I have my little tent, and I'm right in there in their boma with them. And there's no bathroom, there's no water. You're out in the bush going to the bathroom.
Hmm
It's very dangerous. It's basically you're putting your life in your hands when you're there because you don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, so I went out I was always with all of them, but to show you the strength of, just if this is the women, think of how strong the men are. So we're out there, and and they're chopping wood because that's part of their daily chores. And they've got these bands that they've made from the hides from the animals that they're in their livestock, and they wrap. I could only guesstimate. I would say they're between 150 and 200 pounds of wood that they finally collected, and they wrap them around, and they're asking for help. They they pick them up and they put them the band over their head, and I've got pictures and videos, you can see this, and we carry them a couple miles.
Couple miles.
Couple miles.
And do they wear any shoe or they're barefoot?
Well, this is the thing because I'm a barefoot gal. And of course they had never, because most people who come to Africa, they wear these really thick, boots that are going
Yeah.
to be protective. And I don't do that. I live very tribally. Even here, I wear barefoot shoes. I have special shoes made for me that are just millimeters, so that if I can't go barefoot when I go out, they're just micro thin. And as a matter of fact, I have things that are made to mimic what the tribes used to wear.
Mm.
Now,
It's like a sandal, leather
it,
sandal.
it's just a
Oh,
piece of hide. It's only a piece of hide. That's
right.
all.
That's really a hide. Okay.
This is what they would have worn back in the day.
Mm.
They don't anymore. And so what they're doing now, I was kind of bummed when I saw that.